only if you call that function, only then you will be executing that function. Otherwise, that function will not be executed, is what you need to remember. So if I am writing any program, I will be starting my program with a hash include conio.h, hash include iostream.h. That is a basic thing that you all know. Only when we use integer return type, only then we use the return statement. So whatever you have inside the function call, so that is what I will call as the actual argument. Hello everyone, I welcome all of you to the second session on user-defined functions. What is that we have discussed in the session 1? Let's have a small quick recap before I start the session for all of you. Let's start. So we have discussed the definition of user-defined function, right? So after the definition, we also discussed the advantages. What is the advantage? Why should I use the functions, especially user-defined functions? After discussing the advantages of user-defined function, I discussed in detail n number of times how exactly we define the user-defined functions. I also discussed the syntax of user-defined function. Before I start today's session, I would like to discuss the syntax to define the user-defined function, and then I'll move forward for all of you. So what is that syntax? What is the syntax? General syntax, okay, to define the user-defined function. Let's start. I gave you the numbers to remember. How many parts do we have? We have 6. We have 6 parts. Let's start. The first one. So what is that you will write? So first one, you have to write the return type. What is the first one you will write? You will write the return type. The second one, what we have is function name. What is the second one? You have to mention the name of the function. That is what I will call it as a function name. So after that, third one is what I will call it as an argument list. Third one is what I will call it as argument list. So then fourth one is open flare bracket, close flare bracket. So inside this, whatever the statements that you have, so I will call that as body of the function. I will call that as body of the function. So that's what you have to remember. So what is the last one that we have? So guys, we also have the return statement. Please don't forget this. We also have the return statement. So that is the last thing that you have to remember when it comes to the concept or the syntax of user-defined function. So this is the syntax. Let's take an example and understand how exactly it looks if I write the code, right? So what is the first one that I have? Return type. How many return type we have? 2. Int and void. So we have int and void. In this, what is that you want? So you can select based on the type. What is the use of int if I select? So int, if you select int, what will happen? It returns the value. If I select void, it does not return the value. So that's what you have to keep it in your mind. Fine. Now, in this example, I'll take int, right? I'll just write it here. So what is that I'll take? I'll take int. What is my return type? My return type is int. So I'm done with this. Let me just change the color for all of you. So I'm done with this, right? What is the next one I have to take? I have to write the function name. So function name, I'll just write sum, okay? Then what is the next thing that I have to write? I have to write the argument list. If I want to perform the addition of 2 numbers, how many arguments you should have? 2. Int A, int B. Fine. So you are done with this also. Then after that, I'll use open and close brackets, right? I'll use open and close brackets. Then after that, I have to have my statements, right? So I want to perform the addition of 2 numbers. Then how do I do it, right? So I'll just take int A, comma B, comma C. Do I need to have A, comma B, comma C? Do I need to have that? So if I have any variables inside this, so you should treat that as local variables. I will be discussing that in detail now. So if you have any variables inside the function, you will be calling that as a local variable. You can use only within this function, right? So I'll just write C is equal to A plus B. then I want to return the value of C, right? So I should return the result. What is that? So next statement, all the statements are done. So the next statement that I have is return statement. Why do I use return? So to return the result, so return C, return C. So this is the simple example that you should remember whenever you are defining user-defined functions. So this is what you have to remember with respect to the previous session. Let's get into the topic. What I have calling a function. So you have defined this. How you will activate this function? How do you call this function? So I have to initiate this function. I have to invoke this function. ಇದನ್ನ ನಾನು ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ಬೇಕು, ಹೆಂಗೆ ಎಕ್ಸಿಕ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ಬೇಕು, ಯಾವ ಥರ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ಟು ಮೇಕ್ ಇಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸಿಕ್ಯೂಟ್ ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಕಾಲ್. ನೀವು ನಿದ್ದೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಕೂತಿರ್ತೀರ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ ನಾನು ಒಂದು ವಾಟರ್ ಬಾಟಲ್ ತರಿಸ್ಕೋಬೇಕು, ನಂಗೆ ಒಂದು ವಾಟರ್ ಬಾಟಲ್ ತಂದ್ಕೊಡಪ್ಪ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಕಾಲ್, ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಾಲ್. ಇಫ್ ಐ ಸೇ ದಟ್ ದೆನ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಡೂ ಇಟ್. ಸೊ ಇನ್ ದ ಸೆನ್ಸ್ I have to call the function to make it work. So how do I call? What are the points that I should remember with respect to function call? Listen to me carefully. I'll be discussing that one by one. The definition of the program can come either before the main function or after the main function. Yen sir ingandre, imagine I have a program. So how do I have the program? I have hash include conio.h, okay, hash include iostream.h, that header files I have. So I don't have to discuss that again. After that I have void main. After that I have void main. Why should I have void main? Because always my execution of the program starts from the main function. Execution of the program starts from the main function. Ellinda program execution start agutte, illinda start agutte. So what is that they are saying? So please understand definition of the program. Please understand definition of the program can come either before main function, either before main function or after main function. Sir, whatever I have written here, this is what I will call it as a definition of the function. This is what I will call it as a definition of the function. So this one, I can have it before main or after main. What is that I said? Illunu nan define ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಅಥವಾ ಇಲ್ಲೂನು ನಾನು define ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಅಥವಾ ಇಲ್ಲೂನು ನಾನು define ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. Wherever you want, you can define your function is what the first point says. What is the second point? Calling a function is a function that transfer the control from it to another function by specifying the name of that function and passing the arguments. Enangandre, I will read it very slowly. Listen to me carefully. Calling function is a function that transfer the control from it to another function by specifying the name of the function and passing the argument. Calling function antandre, imagine I have some set of lines. Okay, so illi idu execute ಆಗ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ function call ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ function call ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಬಟ್ ನನಗೆ ಈ function call ಮಾತ್ರ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಆ function definition ನಂದು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, function definition ಇಲ್ಲಿರುತ್ತೆ. So it will not execute the next lines whatever I have. So illinda control execution illige transfer ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಲೈನ್ ಎಕ್ಸಿಕ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಈ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಯಾವ ಲೈನ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಆ ಲೈನ್ ಎಕ್ಸಿಕ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. I repeat, imagine I have some 4 to 5 lines here. So then after that the sixth line is function call. So ಈ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಮಾತ್ರ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. So whenever the function call is executed, the control of the execution of the lines will directly transfer to from here to here. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಡೆಫಿನೇಷನ್ ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ, ಆ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಡೆಫಿನೇಷನ್ ಇಲ್ಲಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಆ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಎಕ್ಸಿಕ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆದಮೇಲೆ after that whatever the next lines that I have, it will execute. That is what you need to understand, right? So what is the next point that I have? Call function is a function that receives the call and arguments from the another calling function. ಈ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಸೊ ಈ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ಗೆ I will get the arguments from this function call. Arguments ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು? So we have written, right? So observe here. ಸೊ ಈ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ನನಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಬರುತ್ತೆ? ಸೊ ಎ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಎಷ್ಟು, ಬಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ನನಗೇನು ಗೊತ್ತು? ಸೊ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಾಲಿಂದ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಾಲಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಮೆನ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ನಾನು. So that is what you need to remember. So let me just give you a simple example with respect to function call. ಹೆಂಗಿರುತ್ತೆ function call ಅಂತ? So ಏನಿದು function name? Sum. sum 10, 20 semicolon. ಸೊ ಈ ಥರ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಾಲ್. ಯಾವ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ನ ಕಾಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀರಾ? ಸಮ್. ಸೊ ಇದರೊಳಗಡೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಪ್ಯಾರಾಮೀಟರ್ ಇದೆ? 2. ಸೊ ಎ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಎಷ್ಟು? 10, ಬಿ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಎಷ್ಟು? 20. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಅ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಾಲ್. ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಅ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಾಲ್. ಸೊ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ನ ನೀವು ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಾಲಿಂದ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ಗೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ರಿಮೆಂಬರ್ ಇನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್. From where you're getting the value? From the function call, you're getting the value to the function. That is what you need to remember. Next statement. Function call is a statement that is used to call or make another function execute. ನೀವು ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ನ ಕಾಲ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಎಕ್ಸಿಕ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆಗೋದು. Unless if you don't call that function will not be executed. Keep that in mind. What did I say? Only if you call that function, only then you will be executing that function. Otherwise, that function will not be executed, is what you need to remember. Right? So, hope you understood about the calling a function. Let's understand the syntax. Right? What is that you will write? First thing is variable. First thing is variable. Variable is equal to function name within the parenthesis arguments list. Sir, ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ ನೀವು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮೆನ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀರಾ? Say for example, I have a function something like this. Int sum int a comma int b ಅಂತ ತಗೊಳ್ಳೋಣ. For example, okay? So imagine I have int c. C is equal to a plus b. Okay? Result or return, I have to use a word, return result, that is C. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ? A plus B ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಎಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕಿದು? ಸೊ ಇದು ಆಕ್ಟಿವೇಟ್ ಆಗಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಲ್ವಾ? ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ನೇಮ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್? ಸಮ್. ಓಕೆ, ಎ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಎಲ್ಲಿದೆ? ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಪಾಸ್ 10 ಆಯಿತು. ಬಿ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಎಲ್ಲಿದೆ? ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಪಾಸ್ 20 ಆಯಿತು. ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಎಂಡ್ ವಿತ್ ಅ ಸೆಮಿಕೋಲನ್. ಫೈನ್. ಸೊ ಈ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಆಯಿತು. ಇದು ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಆಯಿತಾ? ಇದನ್ನೇನಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ? ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಈ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸಿಕ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲು ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಎಕ್ಸಿಕ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಫೈನ್. ರಿಟರ್ನ್ ಸಿ, ಎಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಸಿ ರಿಟರ್ನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು? ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ ರಿಸಲ್ಟು ಈ ಲೈನಿಗೆ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ. ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಆದಮೇಲೆ ಈ ರಿಸಲ್ಟು ಈ ಲೈನಿಗೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಒನ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಕಮ್ಸ್ ಹಿಯರ್, ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಟು ಅಸೈನ್ ಇಟ್ ಟು ಸಮ್ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅದು ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ. So I will assign it to a variable. So that's what you need to remember. That's the use of having the variable here. Got my point? So the next one, they have taken the example. Biggest is a function. So they are passing 3 values. I can also pass like this, which I will be discussing yav tara pass madbodu values in the coming slides. Okay? I'm passing 3 arguments and I have a variable. This is how I call any function, is what you have to remember. Now, again, how to define a function. What is the syntax to define a function? Next, what is function call? 2 things. So, I will repeat the syntax of user-defined function. First, return type. Second, function name. Third one, argument list. Fourth one, open bracket, close bracket. Inside that, in other statements, whatever you want, you can write, depends on the function. Last statement, return statement. This is all about the syntax of a function. So henge adana activate martira? How do you execute this? How do you call that function? So with the help of function call. With the help of function call. So how do you write the function call? Using the name. Using the name, you will call the functions, and the number of parameters, whatever you have with a function. So you have to pass that parameters in the function call. That's what you have to remember. So this is all about the function call, calling a function. The next one is main function. Answer is the main function. Let me explain this with an example. This is the general form of main function. Look at this example clearly. ನಾನು ಒಂದು ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಬರೀತಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಅಂದರೆ, ಸೊ ಇಫ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ ರೈಟಿಂಗ್ ಎನಿ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್, ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಮೈ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ವಿತ್ hash include conio.h, hash include iostream.h. That is a basic thing that you all know. ಅದಾದಮೇಲೆ, so I will be writing the main function. I can write the main function with int. Whenever I use int, I have already told you, int andre it returns some value. So whenever I'm using the int as my return type, make sure that by closing your eyes, you will write return 0. It returns some value. If you are using the return type as int, make sure that you will use the return statement to return some value. That is what you have to remember. But when it comes to void, I have told you we have two different return types. One is int, another one is void. The rest everything is same here. If you are using the return type void, so you are not returning any value. Do you find the return statement like this here? No. That is what you need to understand. I will repeat, listen to me carefully. Whenever you are using the return type as int, so you should have the return statement inside. You're returning some value, but whenever you are using void, you're not returning any value. You're not returning any value. That is what you have to remember with respect to the main function, right? Moving on to the next one, return a value. How do I return a value? What is that I have to remember when it comes to returning a value? So let us understand that in detail. When a function is called, the statements in the functions are executed. When a function is called, ಯಾವಾಗ ನೀವು ಒಂದು ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಅಲ್ಲಿರೋ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಎಕ್ಸಿಕ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್. ಸೊ ಫೈನ್, after executing the statements, the functions returns a value to a calling function. What did I say? ಯಾವಾಗ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಎಕ್ಸಿಕ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, when a function is called, ಯಾವಾಗ ಒಂದು ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ನೀವು ಕಾಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಅಲ್ಲಿರೋ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಎಕ್ಸಿಕ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆದಮೇಲೆ ಆ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ರಿಸಲ್ಟ್ನ ರಿಟರ್ನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಎಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ರಿಟರ್ನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ? ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಕಾಲ್ಗೆ ರಿಟರ್ನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ವಿ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ಡ್ ಹಿಯರ್, ರೈಟ್? That's what we discussed here. See, after executing all the statements, this function will return the value to the function call. So that's what you need to understand, right? So fine, we understood that a function can return only one value. How many values it can return? It can return only one value or none. It can return only one value. ಏನದು one value ನ ಅದು ರಿಟರ್ನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ಏನೂ ಮಾಡದೇ ಇರ್ಬೋದು. That is the speciality of written statement. That is what you have to remember. The general form of written statement will be, you have to use the keyword written. You have to use the keyword written. So here you will specify the expression. At the end of the statement, you have to mention the semicolon. At the end of the statement, you have to mention the semicolon. ಇವಾಗ ನಾನು ಏನೇನು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೇನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ, you know the general syntax of user defined function, and you know how to call that function. You know how to pass the value to the function. You know what is written statement. What is written statement? And also you know where do we use the written statement. Only when we use integer return type, only then we use the written statement. That is what you need to understand with respect to written statement. Function prototype, already we have discussed. Return type, specifier, function name, types of arguments. So this is what they have mentioned it as a function prototype. We have discussed n number of times. So the next one is types of arguments. Types of arguments. Sir, ಎಷ್ಟು ತರ types of arguments ಇದೆ sir? Let's start and understand. The first type, actual arguments. First one is actual arguments. ಏನು actual arguments ಅಂದ್ರೆ sir, function call. ಹೌದಾ ಇದು? Can you assume this as a function call? What is the function name? Biggest is a function name. Biggest is a function name. Whatever you have inside the function call, so that is what I will call it as the actual arguments. That is what I will call it as a actual argument. That is what you have to remember. ಏನಂತ ಕರಿತೀನಿ? So whatever you have inside the function call, so that is what I will call it as the actual arguments. Fine. The function call statement contains the name of the function and the list of arguments to be passed. Fine. These arguments or parameters also called as actual arguments. Very important point is here. Actual arguments can be constant, variable or expression. ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಪಾಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ 3 varieties of values ನಾನು ಪಾಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಏನೇನು? ಕಾನ್ಸ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಏನು? ಸೊ 10, 20. So this is what the constant values. This is what I will call it as a constants. Variables andre eno ide value na one variable alli store ಮಾಡಿರ್ತೀರಾ. So this is what I will call it as a variable. ಯಾವ ತರ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು? Biggest is a function name. So 10, 20, 30. So this is what I will call it as a constants. Suppose if I pass like this is what I will call it as a variables. Suppose if I pass like this biggest, okay, a plus b, b plus c, c plus d. Nanili a is equal to 10, b is equal to 20, c is equal to 30 anta ತಗೋತೀನಿ. ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ರೆಷನ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು? a plus b ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು? a plus b ಅಂದ್ರೆ 30 ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. b plus c ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು? 20 plus 30 50 ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. c plus d ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು? c 30 d 10 ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೋಣ, 40 ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ರೆಷನ್, ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಇಟ್ as expression. Expression you can pass. That is what you need to understand as a actual arguments. That's very important. Moving on to the next type, that is formal parameters. Yen formal parameters nanige yavadaದ್ರು ಒಂದು ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಬರಿಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ tell me the prototype. So first I have to write the return type. Let me just write it as int. Then after that function name ಬರಿಬೇಕು. biggest ಅಂತಾನೆ ತಗೋಣ. ಏನ್ function name? biggest. ಅದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಏನು ಬರೀತೀನಿ? argument list. So let me just write int a. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಡೆಫಿನೇಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಹೆಡರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, so this is what I will call it as a function header. So function header ಅಲ್ಲಿ, so whatever I will have, so argument list, that is what I will call it as a parameters, especially formal parameters. How many parameters you have? You have actual parameter, you have formal parameter. Actual parameter function call ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, formal parameter function header ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. That is what you should understand, right? What is the next concept? Local variable. Local variable andre eno? If I declare any variable, please understand, this is my block which belongs to this function. If I declare any variable inside this block, I will be able to access this variable only within this block. ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳಿದೆ? ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೂ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ ನಾನು ಈ ಬ್ಲಾಕ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ನಾನು ಡಿಫೈನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ, ಯಾವ ಬ್ಲಾಕ್? ಈ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಬ್ಲಾಕ್. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಕಾಲಿಂಗ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಲೋಕಲ್ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್. ನಾನು ಈ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ಸ್ನ ಬರೀ ಈ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಆಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗೋದು. ಐ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಯೂಸ್ ದಿಸ್ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ಸ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ವಿತ್ ಇನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್. ಐ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ನಾಟ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಆರ್ ಐ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ನಾಟ್ ಆಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ದಿಸ್ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ಸ್ ಔಟ್ಸೈಡ್ ದ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಅ local variable. So what is next? Global variable. Global variable andre eno? Sir, you are defining the variables outside the main function. You are defining the variables outside the main function. You can access anywhere in the program. ಏನಂತ ಕೇಳಿದೆ? You can access anywhere in the program. Say for example, I am standing in the corridor. Okay, I am standing in the corridor, situation number 1, and I am standing inside the class, situation number 2. If I am standing inside the class, I am accessible only for the class students. ನಾನು ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಇದ್ರೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನ ನನ್ನ ನೋಡ್ಬೋದು, ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು ಆಕ್ಸೆಸಬಲ್? ಓನ್ಲಿ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್. ಅದೇ ನಾನು ಕಾರಿಡಾರಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಂತಿದ್ದೀನಿ, ಕಾರಿಡಾರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು 5 to 6 ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ಸ್ ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಯಾವ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಅವ್ರು ಬೇಕಾದರೂ ನಾನು ಆಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಇದ್ರೆ ಲೋಕಲ್ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್, ಕಾರಿಡಾರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಗ್ಲೋಬಲ್ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್. ದಟ್ಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಯು ನೀಡ್ ಟು ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್. That's what you need to understand. Got it? So we have two types of variable. One is local variable, another one is global variable. Where do we declare the global variable? Outside the main function. That's what you need to remember. Guys, scope of the variable. Scope of the variable refers to the part of the program where the value of the variable can be used. The scope of the variable begins from where the variable is declared. Scope of the variable andre eno? So what is the limitation of the variable? So elli tanka you can access the variable. ಅದು ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಡಿಸೈಡ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ನೀವು ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಡಿಕ್ಲೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತೀರ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಡಿಸೈಡ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಇದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಗ್ಲೋಬಲ್ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್, ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಇದ್ದು ಅದು ಮೇನ್ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಇದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಗ್ಲೋಬಲ್ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ದ ಸ್ಕೋಪ್. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ದ ಸ್ಕೋಪ್. ಎಲ್ಲಿ ತನಕ ಅದನ್ನು ಆಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಬೌಂಡ್ರಿ ಇಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ವಿ ವಿಲ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಅ ಸ್ಕೋಪ್ ಆಫ್ ದ variable. If the declaration is inside the function, the scope extends to the end of the innermost block that contains the declaration. That is what they say. ನಾನು ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಡಿಕ್ಲೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ರೆ only within the function I can access. If I have declared it outside the main function, I can access anywhere in the program. That is what we call as the scope of the variable. By saying this, guys, I have come to an end of the session. So go back, check the video once again, understand, write down the points, whatever you are getting, you are able to understand. Go through 1 or 2 times. You will understand it, you will feel comfortable, you will get the concepts, and you will find it very, very easy. So I think I have made it very simple and easy, though it is a complex topic. Till then, take care. I'll see you in the next session. Bye bye.